Hey everybody, this is Dream. This is going to be a breakdown of the two-game slate, which is the primetime slate on DraftKings for NFL. Two games featured here, the Giants versus the Washington Commanders, and then the Rams against the Green Bay Packers. So the quarterback situation today is quite interesting, simply because all four of the starting quarterbacks are within $1,000. My top two are going to be Aaron Rodgers. He's number one. He just has more upside here. He's been playing off and on all season. He hasn't been great all season, but he's had some good games, and I expect him to actually come out and have a good game, especially with the last few games we've seen some players on Green Bay finally kind of break through, and so I do think that he's going to have some upside here. And then I include Daniel Jones as well, simply because he's been pretty consistent. He's had some off games, but he has been pretty good and much more consistent than Mayfield or Heineke has been for Washington. So both those guys, I think Mayfield does have some upside here, but honestly, it's kind of risky because I think Green Bay is one of the better defenses available. But overall, I think this is a interesting slate. Let me look at the defenses real quick. So my top defense is actually the Packers against the Rams. I think Mayfield is going to have some issues here and probably throw some interceptions, which will give them some upside. And then also the Commanders. They've been playing pretty solid lately, averaging about 7 fantasy points a game all season long. And as you can see, they've had four really decent games in a row, and I expect that to continue here against the Giants here. Just don't really have a lot. I mean, Daniel Jones is pretty good, and Barkley's obviously good, but they just don't have a ton that they can stop, and so I think they have some upside as well. Then we're going to look at running backs here, and my first guy here is going to be Brian Robinson Jr. for Washington. He's really come on the last few games. In 3 of the last 4 games, he's over 10 fantasy points. He's had some good games all season, but he's really starting to get more rushing attempts and stuff like that, and so I look for that to be a thing that he's going to have to do in this game to give Washington a chance. And then Aaron Jones for the Green Bay. Now, he is kind of in a timeshare, but he has been pretty consistent in getting over 10 fantasy points a game. And simply from that perspective, that makes him viable on the slate, especially because they're going to have to hopefully run the ball a lot. And then Saquon Barkley, obviously, he's been kind of up and down the last few games, but I think he's got a good opportunity here to play well. Obviously, if the game gets limited, then that would be a problem, but I think he's viable on the slate anyway. Then we'll look at wide receiver, and this is where we really get kind of in the weeds. Tutu Atwell for the Rams looks like he's in an interesting spot here. He's got more targets last game than he's had all season long with Mayfield, and with all the injuries and stuff, I think Mayfield is going to look for him quite a bit and give him some opportunity here, and he's very cheap, so that gives us a lot of value. Ben Sakwarnik, sorry for butchering your name. He also kind of fits in the same bill. He really played better last week than he has all season long. I mean, he's had a couple of decent games, but he really played well with Baker, and I expect him to get a lot of targets as a result in this game as well. And then Terry McLaughlin for Washington. He looks like he's an interesting spot here. He's been good up and down all season long, but he's been pretty good. Not having bad games, really. He's only had 1 game under 8 fantasy points, so he's definitely a pretty safe option on this slate. And then Christian Watson for Green Bay. Now, he looks like a very interesting spot, considering the fact that he's had 4 straight really good games after not really doing much throughout the season. He's got a bunch of touchdowns the last 4 games, I think 8 total, so, or 7, sorry, 7 total on the receiving end, and then 1 on the ground. So that's a lot, that's 8 touchdowns. If he can even get 1 or 2 touchdowns in this game, he's going to pay off for you very nicely, and he's a pretty good price as well. Then we'll look at the tight ends, and we're going to look at first Higbee for the Rams, and I think he's probably the de facto best tight end available. However, he's been very inconsistent this season, and he's really not been good the last 4 weeks. But hopefully with Baker, he'll get some more opportunity. And then Logan Thomas is the second option for Washington against the Giants. Again, there's just no tight end that's been consistent all season, but he looks okay in this game, assuming that Washington can keep in the game. Then for the defensive, I already went over defense, I'm sorry. With that said, guys, if you have any comments or questions, or if there's any players you feel like I left out that I should have included, feel free to comment those below. Thank you guys for liking, commenting, subscribing, and have a nice day.